and the note under the door I didn't write. The note was written on hotel stationery I'd never seen before. Thick, cream, the logo blind embossed so the light had to do the reading. It had been slid under our apartment door while I was in the shower, so by the time I picked it up the paper had taken a curl from the steam like it had an opinion. 4 words, in a hand I recognized from contracts and threats. Room 512, bring calm. I stared at the number the way you stare at a bruise that isn't yours. Then I smelled coffee, and the part of me that solves fires for a living remembered to breathe. Sasha was at the kitchen island in one of my shirts, sleeves rolled as if she respected buttons but not too much. The blinds were half open, letting the river do its best impression of innocence. On the counter, her laptop, 2 mugs, a plate with 3 raspberries and a crumb trail that made me think of criminal evidence. She glanced at the note, then at me, like she was measuring what kind of morning we were going to have. "Who is it?" she asked, almost casual. "Who do you think?" I said. "Victor," she said, not needing the surname. In this city there are always at least 2 men named Victor trying to buy the same neighborhood. Only one writes on hotel paper like he owns the chain. Sasha runs the campaign that pretends not to be a campaign, the coalition against turning old freight into what the developer brochures call riverfront discovery, and the rest of us call rich people practicing scarcity. I'm a fixer by profession and a locksmith by personality. I tell companies where their doors are thin. I tell my partner when we can push and when we should run. She rarely runs. "In what world," I said, "do I bring calm to a man who makes storms for sport?" "In the exact world we live in," she said, closing her laptop with the care of someone who knows the next click will cost a friendship. The hotel was 12 blocks away, a former bank that had repurposed its tellers, cages into the kind of bar where you apologize for ordering beer. We walked there in a silence we had trained to be useful. The doorman nodded at Sasha the way men nod at women who intimidate them without consent. In the lobby, everything shone just shy of accusing you. Room 512 smelled like money that had been ironed. Victor stood at the window with a glass he wasn't drinking, wearing the kind of suit that tries to convince a city it can be bought in pieces. On the bed, a leather folio, 2 unopened water bottles, a blue scarf coiled like a comma. In the mirror I saw us arrive, and behind our reflections, another woman I knew. Myra leaned against the desk like she'd been drawn there by a photographer who charged extra for tension. Her lipstick was a precise red. Her dress was a color I don't have a name for because I've never had to pay for it. She used to sit where Sasha sits now, next to me in rooms where men put their hands on the table and pretend those hands never did anything else. Her job was to make donors believe in changing their minds. Mine was to make them regret it when they didn't. "Good morning," Myra said, as if mornings belonged to her. "Depends," Sasha said. "Are we collecting or paying?" Victor turned. He has the kind of smile that looks like it could stop lawsuits and start affairs. It rarely does either for long. "You're here," he said to me, "and you brought the only person in this city who can make a microphone feel shame. Tell me you didn't drag me here to flatter my girlfriend," I said. His eyebrows made a polite V. The word girlfriend is so undergraduate. "Try person I love," Sasha said, "or the reason I keep not burning your office down." He set the glass down. "Let's talk about old freight." Myra watched our faces the way I've seen her watch chess. She does not wear a ring and she never will. Rings slow responses. The last time we'd been alone we were not, which is how I learned the difference between endings and pauses. We had ended. We still paused when we walked into rooms like this. The city will vote next week, Victor said. You have the swing, I have the renderings. Everyone has a story they prefer. You have a waiver, Sasha said. It says if the basements flood, that's God's behavior and not your engineers. You have a rider that gags tenants who accept relocation stipends. You have a side letter that offers community partnerships to a museum that seems to exist only in your deck. Victor's smile hardened. You've been reading my mail. I've been reading the river, she said. It has the same handwriting as your lawyer's. Myra stepped between us the way a violin steps between a fight and a song. He asked you here to negotiate. I asked him here, Victor corrected, because he has an instinct for where the floor will hold and because I assumed you follow Sasha. You rarely let him ruin his career without supervision. Let him, Sasha said, amused. He ruins it beautifully all on his own. I took the folio off the bed and flipped the tab. Inside, the same language we'd been seeing for months, now typeset with a desperation expensive people call compromise. There were 2 new pages. One offered a clinic built before any luxury unit received a certificate of occupancy. The other required the developer to fund independent flood studies every spring for 5 years and abide by remediation that an outside engineer could order without begging. This, I said, tapping the new pages, is almost a decent apology. Almost, Sasha said, already seeing where the verb slipped. We want your yes, Victor said, not your speech. Sasha closed the folio. You can't have one without the other. He looked to Myra. It was not begging. It was the look you give the person you pay to make other people like you. Myra held my gaze. She didn't blink. She never needed to when I was the one who should have. Let's step out, she said to me. I want to talk to my ex in the hallway like a cliché. Sasha gave me a look that meant 2 things at once. Don't be seduced by history and bring something back besides guilt. I nodded. In the corridor, the carpet was so thick it made decisions quiet. I didn't write the note, Myra said. I didn't think you did, I said, which was both true and an old lie. She looked at me with that particular softness she uses as a mirror. He needs you to say yes, she said. He needs her to say it louder. I need neither. I need you to be the person you are when the light changes. You mean the person who puts his hand on your throat and tells you to stop strategizing for a breath, I said, because cruel is just accuracy with ambition. She didn't step back. She tilted her chin, remembering. That old current came up through the carpet. We were too close to the door and too far from pretending it wasn't happening. Don't, I said. You said it, she whispered, not me. I think about fidelity more than people expect, not the kind the church sold us, the kind you owe your future self. I moved half a step, enough for the air to reset. She smiled like an apology and a dare. Victor will never agree to enforcement, she said. He'll say yes in a way you can quote. He'll never sign the asterisk. Then we don't say yes, I said. And we let the city lose the clinic and the park and the upgrades their PR people are already in love with, she said, tired in the bones. You love winning on principle. Some of us love people who can't wait. I love both, I said, and meant it badly. Back in 512, Sasha had taken off her shoes and tucked one foot under her. It's her tell when she's about to choose the brittle language that makes men who hide money in shell companies call their therapists. She looked at my face and saw what she needed, that I had resisted something and that it had cost me something and that she would pay it with me. We'll give you a yes, she said to Victor, if you agree to one condition not in your folio. He raised a hand, palm up, courtroom style. I'm listening. Independent escrow, she said. You put 15 million into a community account administered by a trustee we choose. If your basements flood, the fund pays the tenants to move before the mold learns their names. If the clinic builds stalls for any reason you try to call supply chain, the fund finishes it. If your engineers refuse remediation, the fund hires different engineers. You don't get the escrow back. It's not a bond. It's what it costs to ask us to trust you. Victor laughed, because disbelief is his favorite toy. You want me to pay for the privilege of my own good intentions? Yes, Sasha said, call it tuition. He looked at me, as if this had been my idea, and he wanted to know whether to be impressed or upset. You sign off on this. I'll sign off on the fund's wiring instructions, I said. The rest is paperwork, yours. He moved to the window and watched the river do its weather. He has a face that can seem noble while it estimates softness. Myra studied him the way you study a safe you can open in your sleep. I looked at Sasha. She was not smiling. She was not smiling. It is the face she wears when she's already made the phone calls she will announce later. I can do 10, Victor said. Your trustee, my accountant, published statements quarterly. 15, Sasha said, monthly. 12, he said, quarterly with an audit. 13, she said, monthly audited with discretion for emergency disbursement without notice. He turned then and saw the thing he always pretends not to see, that he was negotiating with someone who had decided not to need him. Done, he said, but you will say yes in public and soon. We'll say the word the city understands, Sasha said. We'll say safeguards. He extended a hand he keeps manicured. She shook it, then took her shoes and left the room without looking at Myra or me, which is how I knew we were not finished paying. Myra waited until the door closed. Her eyes went to the scarf on the bed, then to my mouth, then away. She's good, she said. She is, I said. I didn't call you here to see if you'd kiss me, she said. You didn't need to know, I said. You already knew. She laughed once, and for a second I remembered why we had set our phones face down and thrown, whatever we were, into that hotel bed near the airport when the flight got delayed, and the plan got too heavy to carry. Then I remembered why I left. She doesn't deserve the way the city uses her, Myra said, softer. Make sure they pay twice. I will, I said. And be careful with the calm you bring, she added. Sometimes it looks like consent. We said the city word 3 days later. The press conference was held in the courtyard of the old depot, where pigeons still throw their small weight against the air. Sasha stood at the podium in a shirt that made sincerity look expensive. I stood behind her because I prefer being the second knife. Victor arrived with a check he would never get to touch again, and a smile that would last until November. Myra stood at the back in a coat that erased weather. Sasha spoke like a surgeon who had decided the operation was worth the scars. She said safeguards and independent and monthly and emergency. She said the river and the clinic and the people whose names don't end up on plaques. She didn't say yes. She didn't have to. The city heard it anyway because the cameras like their verbs simple. At midnight, my phone lit with a private number and a photo. The scarf from the bed, tied to the lobby rail of our building, a little red wound waiting to be interpreted. No text. I stared at it until Sasha came out of the shower and saw my face and didn't ask. Take me to the window, she said. We didn't close the curtains. We are not exhibitionists. We are honest about rooms we own. She climbed onto my lap the way she does when she decides to set the terms of the next argument. Water still on her shoulders, heat still in her skin, her mouth made a sentence on my neck I will never be able to repeat to an audience without lying. I took her hips like I meant to stay. We were careful without being good. When I said the word we reserve for when it's more than wanting, she laughed into my mouth. Honeysuckle, I said. Ridiculous, she said, and ours. After, we lay there while the building hummed its old prayers. In the street below, someone argued in a language we both like better than ours at 2 in the morning. I held Sasha's hand where it rested over my heart and said the thing I had been trying not to turn into a symbol. Myra left the scarf, I said. I know, Sasha said. She's a punctuation mark that forgot it's not a paragraph. You're not jealous? I asked. Of a note, she said. No, of a habit, maybe. What habit? You like rooms where a decision is about to be made, she said. Sometimes you mistake the person closest to the door for the person you love. I turned her hand and kissed the inside of her wrist until I felt her relax again. I love the person who walks me out of those rooms, I said. She went still the way she does when she believes me against her will. Good, she said, because the escrow will break him before winter and he'll come for me in the papers. I'll need you for the part where we refuse to perform regret. We slept without asking the building to keep our secrets. The next day the escrow agreement hit the clerk's office with a thud and Victor smiled for 3 magazines at once. 2 weeks later, the river shrugged and the basement of a building he had told us would be impervious decided to prove a point. Checks cleared in hours instead of months. Families moved in days instead of deranging themselves with bleach. The clinic's glass went up without waiting for speeches. The city learned what it looks like when a man pays tuition. Myra sent a message that only said, "Don't make this a love story." It was the smartest thing she's ever written to me. I typed back, "It never was." Then I deleted it and typed nothing. Some ghosts deserve to keep their jobs. The scarf stayed on the lobby rail for 2 days until rain made it honest. The superintendent took it down with tongs, as if it might bite, and left it in the lost and found drawer with 16 phone chargers and a pair of cufflinks engraved with someone else's initials. I didn't go get it. We keep the note in the kitchen drawer with the corkscrew and the bandages and the spare keys. When I open it to find the thing that fixes the next small crisis, I see those 4 words, and I think about all the rooms calm pretends to be a virtue in. When I start to mistake calm for consent, Sasha puts her mouth at my ear and reminds me we don't do that here. Sometimes Myra sends articles about floods in other cities, and the way concrete learns to speak another language when money hands it a microphone. Sometimes I send them to Sasha, and she sends back a photo of the clinic windows at dusk, warm and inevitable. We do not go to hotels anymore unless out-of-town cousins are in need. If a note comes under our door, it's from the neighbor who wants to borrow sugar, and they say please like it's a currency. Bring calm, the paper said. I brought the person who makes storms behave. I keep bringing her. It keeps working. We are not clean. We are clear. And when the city tries to turn us into the kind of lovers who look good in scandals, we close the curtains only when we want to, and we leave the window open the rest of the time, because air is the only witness that has never lied to either of us.